Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the Data Hive mission from Halo 3 ODST on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing Kikowani Station from Halo 3 ODST. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
How much for the Kikowani special?
If you have to ask, can't afford it.
Ah, shit.
The last mission, we were on NMPD HQ. Buck and Romeo climb to the NMPD headquarters rooftop in order to be picked up by the Pelican that just saved Dutch and Mickey. However, the Pelican gets shot down and the two are forced to track down their location on the rooftops of New Mombasa. The 4 Alpha 9 members finally reunite during an epic showdown between the Covenant air support and the UNSC heavy weapons. Then, Romeo takes a gravity hammer to the chest. Ouch. Ooh. Current mission, Kikowani Station. The ODST squad is finally back together, sans the rookie, and must find a way to save Romeo and get out of the city. With the maglev train tunnels flooded, Buck makes the executive decision to hijack a Phantom. Sounds easy, right? Maybe more so than you think. However, it's escaping the city that ends up being the hard part. We are still on October 20th. This entire game is on this day, 2100 hours, so it's 5 hours after the drop. And we are now playing as Buck, back in Buck's shoes. We're probably going to talk about this throughout the mission, but this mission is a great dialogue, like lots of good, friendly, fun banter during this mission, so definitely crank up the volume if you are planning on playing this again. But lots of good stuff going on in this mission, and it's a flying mission, which is great.
Yes,
Lots
the
of
best
fun.
kind of mission.
Oh, super cool.
Mm-hmm. So, David, do you want to try to do the cutscene? Are you recalling kind of that cutscene opening intro at all for us?
I should, because I just played it today.
Okay.
So, essentially, the rookie, you make yourself to the station, and the item that you pick up and interact with is a biofoam canister.
Well, before we get there, sorry, I
like
always kind of talk through Mombasa streets. I'm forgetting that. So let's do a little bit of that first.
Sure.
Because there's a couple things that I do want to mention, so apologies there. One of the things I've noticed right when you get back to being rookie is you kind of have this somber piano music, and that kind of, the music in ODST is just great in general, but I really noticed it there in particular. So we were, rookie down below, and he looks up, the camera kind of looks back down on rookie, so it's kind of taking you back down out of the skies. And then, you're looking at that sniper rifle that you picked up, and, rookie tries to bend it back, but, obviously you're not going to use that, so he just hucks it. And then we see a Phantom fly overhead, and some brutes and jackals get dropped off as normal. One of the things that I kind of want to mention here is you're now kind of have free reign of the entire map at this point. And we've talked about the audio logs in the past. So now is a good time to go out and get them all, and just, find a map online and go around and get them. You actually can. So I'm doing a playlist on Master Chief Collection, and I didn't have all the audio logs when I kind of made it further in the game here, and I realized I couldn't go and get them. But you can still pop out of the playlist, go just to the open Mombasa Streets mission, collect all the audio logs, and then go back to your playlist. So just as an FYI, you can do that. But if you do want to just kind of continue on with this one save state that you're playing with, this version of Mombasa Streets is the time to go wander around the city and go grab everything. And there's lots of little nooks and crannies that aren't directly in between you and the beacon that you find. When I went around and got all the audio logs, I was finding myself being like, oh, I forgot about this place. This is a cool little area. So there's lots of places to go check out. So do that now. Krista or David, have you guys done that yet? Have you done that wandering yet?
No, not yet. I I don't want to do it again because when I did it on the Xbox 360 version, I had thought I had gotten all of them, but then I had missed one.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and do all of them. So I still have like PTSD from doing that because I was so pissed off. I was so angry like that, and it was just like an hour of me going, "God damn this game! I gotta go back and try to look at it." So I've been putting it off, but
the map I found was accurate. It was just I think I did miss one or two also, so I just had to backtrack a little bit to remember. Okay, I think this might have been one I missed because you know like if you're picking them up along the way. You know, you have like a handful of them. You don't necessarily remember which ones they are, so you still have to start, you know, from one like on the map and go all the way around. So if you get to one that's not there, you don't immediately recognize, you're like, oh, I think I got this one. I'm just gonna go to the next one. So yeah, it can definitely be frustrating.
Yeah. So what you should end up doing is I take the map, I put it into Paint, and then I just start like crossing off the ones I got.
Oh, nice.
So I would go, like, I go to one. I make sure that I know where one is. If I don't see it, cross it off. I've gotten that one. Go to two. So it can be very, very tedious. I definitely know games where it's more tedious, but the problem with ODST is as you unlock the audio logs, it just gives you the next piece of dialogue. So there's no way of tracking which ones you've gotten and which ones you haven't in-game. So you have to either do it by yourself, or you just have to go through and look at every single place that an audio log exists, which is kind of annoying. Games today have kind of gotten over that, and they will say, oh, this is piece number 1 of so-and-so as you're going through the game. So that's just kind of a relic of its time, really.
Yeah.
But it is annoying. Once you unlock them all, you're done. You never have to unlock them ever again. Unless they do ODST on like the next console, and then you have to go back and do it again. But no matter how many times you restart the game or, you know, delete your save file or whatever, you will always have those audio logs. So you really only have to do it once. It's worth doing. There's a really cool tie-in, but it's annoying.
I found a ghost at one point. I don't know if you guys found that ghost, and I cruised around with that, and then I think it might have just disappeared on me at one point.
I think the ghosts do despawn.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there are a couple ghosts hidden on the map, which are really, really helpful. Which is really good for finding the stupid audio logs, because you don't have to get out of the vehicle to shoot.
They're not stupid.
Well, it's stupid in the context of how long it takes and how you can't track them and stuff like that.
You can't track them in the game.
But put on your favorite Netflix show and just cruise through the city.
Listen to a podcast.
The good thing about the audio logs is they will make you go to areas that you don't know exist.
Yeah, exactly.
So they force you to go through the city and really appreciate how detailed the city is.
Yeah, you when I was doing it, I kind of appreciated. Wow, this is actually a pretty big area.
Yeah.
So that felt cool. Some different encounters and some fun stuff to find along the way. But as I mentioned, if you don't do that, you can still go back after the fact before like reboot Data Hive. But this mission ends and then Data Hive pretty much picks up right away. So now is the time if you don't want to kind of have to go bounce back and forth just to do it now.
Yeah, until the end of the game, you're kind of locked out of Mombasa streets.
Right, and we've talked about the 30th audio log being in Data Hive. It's actually a little ways into Data Hive, so if you don't want to like be part way and then realize you don't have them, like just kind of do it now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so one of the other things that I noticed as I was going around because the superintendent's kind of directing you to the audio logs. And we probably talked about this at one point, but I noticed it here especially is like there'll be a car alarm when I'm coming around a corner, and it wasn't an audio log. It was like there was a bunch of bad guys. There's a bunch of Covenant.
Oh.
So it was interesting. There's one or two cases for that where it was just letting me know that hey, you need to actually watch out for yourself. I didn't pick up on that earlier, but maybe that's because I figured just a car alarm meant that there was a audio log nearby, and I may have just run by it or something like that.
That's what I thought as well,
Yeah.
but that's really interesting that it's kind of alerting you to enemies in the area.
Enemies and stuff. It's cool.
And it did look like when I went to an audio log location, I'm forgetting what the sign says, but and I'd already picked it up. There was a red screen that more or less signified that I've already been there before, already grabbed it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so that might have been an addition in MCC. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't remember looking at the details as much when I first played through ODST on the 360 because I just wasn't looking for that.
Yeah.
Like, just playing through doing mission debrief in Podcast Evolved makes you play through the games a little differently and pick up on just nuanced stuff. So it's kind of interesting to go back through with a fresh perspective and a kind of different way of looking at things. So.
Yep. So this beacon is pretty much at the top of the map, and so you have to go all the way north. The city's kind of split in two sides, and the right side, the east side, you can actually travel further up north, and you do reach a point. There's like a fork in the road, kind of, where you can either go to the left of the building or the right to get around into the beacon. And I went to the right, and there ended up being kind of a those little structures that are in the middle, these like roundabout things. There was one of those and some brutes and a bunch of jackals that I had to deal with. I didn't go back around to the left, so I'm not sure if you guys did. Either you guys go to the left on that part, or you guys recalling what I'm talking about?
I think I did because I fought hunters and stuff.
Oh, you did?
And jetpack brutes and stuff.
I didn't see any hunters there. So there's going to be some resistance either way, and then you kind of just work your way around. Another interesting, so you kind of get past all of that stuff, all the Covenant, and there's lots of lulls in Mombasa streets. But we got up to the area where the beacon actually is, and I just kind of wander around and try to explore the city as much as possible. I went up to a garbage can, and the garbage can, like those big canisters, and it like shut on me, like it almost, I don't know, it was bizarre. You can't actually push X on it, but I hadn't noticed that before either, where maybe there's just some environmental activity that triggers by proximity. Anyway, just a little creepy thing. So now you're finding, now kind of was what David is talking about. I'll give it back to you, David, is where you pick up that bioform canister.
Yeah, so you get to the train station, you find your bioform canister and initiate the mission. So it cuts to the Rocky picking the canister up, kind of using it, squirting a little bit of it and kind of throwing it away. And then it cuts then to Alpha 9, and they're scrambling across the streets, and Romeo is in a real bad way. So he's got a punctured lung, so he collapses on the ground. There's a bit of chit chatter. Mickey goes down into the train station to have a kind of scout on ahead, and Buck takes out a bioform canister and injects it into Romeo's chest.
And it like fixes him.
And it just like fixes him. So like bioforms is amazing stuff in the Halo universe. So it like temporarily kind of fixes him. And then there's like a phantom goes by, so the guys they trigger the button on the door and have the kind of railing cut down because that's going to stop Covenant. So then the guys kind of scramble back down into the train station, and that's when Mickey realizes or calls Buck that you better come see this, and it's pretty much just full of Covenant. And the actual train station is down and flooded. So the plan was to go through these old tunnels and walk out of the city, but it's actually full of Covenant, and we'll find out in a little while later why.
Yep.
So then that's pretty much it. Buck comes up with the idea, okay, Dutch and Romeo are going to stay here, and Mickey, we're going to capture a Phantom. And then that's pretty much it. The mission begins, and that's your kind of loose objective.
Yep.
Capture that Phantom.
So do you guys have an idea why the tunnels were flooded? Was just because of, I don't know if they ever explained that specifically. They're just flooded, which is cool, which is fine. I mean, it probably makes sense with a big explosion or just like the invasion in general. Maybe the Covenant flooded the tunnels to try to keep people from escaping, that sort of thing. But I don't think they ever specifically explain what happened.
Unless it's just from the slip space rupture that it like damages the infrastructure and maybe a dam breaks or something, and they just become flooded. I'm not sure.
Yep.
It is raining a lot too in this game, so maybe there's a lot of crazy weather. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's true.
Well, it could be because part of the city's shut down as well, which means maybe stuff isn't getting drained properly or something like that.
Yeah.
And also the Covenant are digging, so...
Yes. That's a good
digging
point.
tends to cause problems.
Right. Make sure to call your local energy before you dig, energy company.
Make sure you don't hit a water line.
That's right. So there's good dialogue throughout. We kind of mentioned that earlier, but Buck says, Mickey, you're with me, and Mickey says, Gunny, I can fly a Pelican, but a Phantom? It's been years since I ever ran a simulation. And Buck says, well, let's see what you remember, Trooper. Let's move. Lots of good stuff, just kind of like that. Just like, we're going to wing it. We're just going to make the best of it. Let's go. The city is super dark now. The night has fallen. So I think the last mission was 3 hours after drop. And so now it's 5 hours. So it took them a while to get through that last mission on the top of the police department. And then they had to get down, and then they had to get to Kikowani. You know, they're dragging Romeo with them. So some time has passed. And as you mentioned, David, Romeo is in rough shape, you know, over the course of those couple hours since we...
Yeah, one of the trivia points is kind of like just calling out the fact that Romeo survives for a long time with a punctured lung and no medical attention before they get to the biofoam.
Also, he's not a Spartan.
So I imagine maybe that...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the only kind of loose solution I can think of is that maybe that's not the first canister of biofoam that they've injected into him. And that's just kind of keeping him limping along.
Yep, that's a good point. I think it made it look like I think he grabbed the canister from Dutch maybe, and he might have had a couple with him, but yeah, that could be it.
Yeah, who knows?
All right, so now you see the Phantom off to the side, to the left that you were planning to go hijack. You can also go to the right. Did you guys go down there?
Today I did. I've never really done it before, just to see what was there. Just nothing. Just
there's
like
nothing.
A little train station. Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Just there's a busted up train just kind of sitting there, or like monorail, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's all sparking down there, but there's nothing to really collect or anything down there. It's just environment. Like this mission, I think the rest of the game there are just big environments to explore in general. So they definitely do a good job with that, more so than I feel like in the past missions where it feels more like, well, I guess some of them feel more open, but these last couple missions do feel wide open and feel like you can just wander around, which is cool. Mickey kind of heads off and he'll just go way up. So when I was going to explore to the right, like he'll just go.
He's just fighting.
I wasn't even halfway through, and he's like, "Okay, I'm in the Phantom." I'm like,
"Oh, really?" Oh, he went way ahead for you.
Yeah, he just walked past the brutes, just all casual like. I'm like, all right, man, if that's what you want to do.
Just strutting his stuff right on by. I like it.
just the casual whistling as he walks towards the Phantom.
He's like skipping. There's some beam rifles to pick up, so you kind of advance a little ways off to the left once you finally decide to stop exploring. And there's some beam rifles there, so you can actually do a lot of sniping here. And clearing out, and there's those little explodey canisters.
I love those.
Do you guys know what those are? Those little guys that blow up?
I think they're full of plasma or
Power
something.
cells? Yeah, I guess so. Plasma.
It's probably just because most of their technology runs off plasma, so I would imagine it's a power core of some type.
Yeah.
That's what I always assumed it was, yeah. Like a portable generator thing.
They're very dumb at their placement. They're like, you know what? We're going to stand right next to the explodey thing. It's going to be great.
And there's plenty of Covenant, we just keep naming them over and over, right? Brutes, Jackals, Grunts, there's all those. I do want to correct myself. The last couple missions I'm recalling, I think we've mentioned the Chieftain, or we've mislabeled Chieftains. The Chieftains are just the big dudes with the gravity hammers. Those are the Chieftains. There are Brute Captain Majors. And those are the guys that look similar to the Chieftains, but don't have the big gravity hammer. They have like a gold armor, and they have a brute shot, or they have some sort of a heavier weapon that they're attacking you with. So those guys are scattered throughout the game, more so than just the Chieftains themselves. So just a little correction. I just wanted to make sure that we called that out, because I know I've been calling everybody Chieftain right now, and that's incorrect. The Brute Captains were from Halo 2. I think we touched on that in a previous episode. Those are the guys with little flags, and those guys we don't see them anymore. So we advance further. We clear out the area, blow up those canisters. Those are your best friend. Beam rifle if you can, and then we get to the kind of the hijacking where Mickey just hops in. And then he makes a comment about like it being purple in there, which I think is good.
Yeah. Well, he's like green across the board, or purple, or something like that. It's
yeah,
yeah,
very good. And then he takes that, and then you hop in a Banshee, which is great. This is good times here. So pretty much for the rest of the mission, you're in a Banshee, while Mickey he goes and picks up Dutch and Romeo, and they both man one of the turrets within the Phantom. And this is just great. This just feels like a great moment in Halo in general, is where you're flying. You know, the specific mission is to hijack Covenant vehicles and take them to your objective. It's so good.
Yeah, it's very fun.
And if you didn't, you should have, but don't forget to use your is it the fuel rod? Is that the B button, I think?
Banshee bomb.
The Banshee bomb.
Banshee bomb.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It depends.
So-
It really depends on what layout you're using, but
Sure.
it isn't. So in some of the Halo games, you have to switch to the Banshee bomb, and in
Right.
some Halo games, you just press one of the A, B, X, Y buttons. It's press one of the A, B, X, Y buttons.
They're called Facebook. Just
Yeah, so don't forget to use that. And I didn't really do many, I don't know what they call, like, flips
Banshee
or anything
tricks?
like that. Yeah, I didn't do many tricks.
aerial maneuvers.
There you go.
The Halo 3 ones are really slow. Halo
Yeah, they
Reach,
are.
they're like super fast and actually useful, but in Halo 3, it's like, I'm gonna do a barrel roll. It's like, okay, great. I just got shot 50 times doing the barrel roll.
Right. So, yeah, style points at your caution, at your own caution, and despair, your own peril. But there are lots of Banshees around, so that they are littered. This whole area is just littered with Banshees. So if you're smoking, if one of your wings is kind of looking rough, and your buddies will actually, the Alpha 9 team will say, hey, you probably want to switch out Banshees because you might explode.
You on fire, bro?
Right. So yeah,
I'm surprised at how much the Phantom does. Like it doesn't just sit there and go from checkpoint to checkpoint. It'll stop, shoot some enemies in an area until they're all gone, and then move on,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
Yeah, I felt like it did pretty good damage even on heroic. I'm sure it's less so on legendary, but I felt like it did some good, some good teamwork for me. I was feeling it. I mean, you still have to go. I mean, you could probably do the whole mission with it, maybe just the Phantom doing stuff, but that would take a long time.
Yeah.
So you got to do your own work too. So now we're really just proceeding through the areas, and we get to these big giant doors that let's see, the first one I think we just fly through, right?
You have to
Or do you have to get out and open that?
you have to
one
push the
first?
button, yeah, and
That's
then you
right.
fly through.
Yep.
No, the first one opens by itself and two Banshees fly out at you.
That's right. That's
okay,
the
yeah.
very
right away,
first
the
one,
very
yeah.
first one. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. So you do fly through there, and then I think right around here is when you see the Huragok recharge stations.
Or they
Which
call
I-
them squid houses.
Is that what the
Yeah, that's what they call
Yeah,
them.
they call them squid houses, yeah.
Okay, I like that. We'll call them squid houses. Much better than Huragok recharge station. But that's where our little tentacled friends hang out, have coffee breaks,
Explode.
and explode.
Explode and die.
And that's probably why they are extra explodey, is because there's Huragok in there that are that have the bombs on them, right? I mean, that would.
I mean,
make
I
sense.
would imagine they would also rig these stations to be super explodey just because
Yeah.
the Covenant are really adamant about asset denial with the Huragok.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it would make sense for them to just make them huge targets. If an enemy were to come around, there would be no way for them to really retrieve anything from those stations.
Yeah. There's a lot of Huragok. Have you guys looked into why this faction of... I mean, because this is the Regret team still. They have so many Huragok, it's ridiculous.
Well,
There's...
I mean, they're looking for a Forerunner artifact.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean,
So they wanna haul
Huragok
'em.
are very knowledgeable about Forerunner artifacts. So I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine that's why they have so many of them.
And they're kind of their slaves, too. And we've talked about how Huragok can make other Huragok. So they've probably done their fair share of forcing
Reproduction
them to
thing?
do that. Yeah.
Well, and they're super, like,
Yeah.
because Regret brought quite a small team to Earth because he didn't think that there would be, people on Earth. They thought it would just be an uninhabitable planet or something like that. So it would make sense for them to want to breed more Huragok to make new weapons, make new vehicles, repair
Yeah.
vehicles, all that kind of stuff because they have limited assets.
Yep, that makes sense.
Also, it's probably like taking like a science team, let's say, or like this kind of like exploratory investigation kind of fleet that came in with Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Or was it Regret? No, it's not Regret. Who came to Earth?
No, it was
Truth, wasn't
Regret. Regret came to Earth first. Yeah.
Regret came to Earth. So Regret was coming to Earth with like not a military force, more so looking for Covenant, or sorry, looking for forward attack. So it's probably got more engineers for that reason.
Yep, that makes sense. So we go through these tunnel areas, which I don't really know what they are. But like, I was thinking about that as I go through the mission. Like, why are these things even here?
Gameplay wise,
it makes sense.
They're
but
literally
like
just loading areas, but
yeah,
city wise, maybe they're checkpoints of some sort.
Sure.
I imagine there's large amounts of cargo that comes through here, maybe either flown in and then put on rails and transported elsewhere, because the station is a kind of a train station, but maybe it's kind of
there's like a couple of offices in there, and
that must be what it is, because every single one of these areas has an office at the beginning and an office at the end, so it might be them checking them in and checking them out or something like that, just a way to track the cargo as they go through these ports.
And there is a door to go straight ahead, but they just force you to go the other side.
Yeah, and when you come out the end, you come out on a coast, so like that's what I think you're all kind of it's kind of like that's like a port.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's a big city, they're probably flying in a bunch of different resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we proceed through this area, and flying through isn't too bad. But then once you have to go and open one of the doors, then it gets a little bit rougher. So you keep going, and there is a spot that kind of opens up, and then you have to fly through. I think there's a Banshee that's above one of those recharge stations, or excuse me, a Phantom. So you can kind of blow that thing up just by blowing up the recharge station. It'll take that thing out. Or it'll, if you don't get to it soon enough, it'll just kind of fly off. And then that's when you get to the door where you have to actually hop out, and then hit the button, and then this is the one. I think this first one here is where you hit the button and then fly through. I'm trying to think here. I'm reading my notes. So you get out, hit the button, then fly through.
The second door,
Right. So there's 3 of these points. And then the next one that you get to is where you actually hop out, and then the door jams, and then you actually have to walk through. And that part is fairly tough.
Oh, there's a bunch of brutes in there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a lot of brutes kind of at the end. I found at that point there is some Covenant weapons that you can go pick up in that area. Mm-hmm. Kind of at the end at that front area, but I think there's a turret at the top, and then a bunch of brutes are just kind of hanging out in the back. So some of them will come advance, but a lot of them will stay back. So you kind of have to head up further up that little ramp, and that will trigger them to come down. And that there is a chieftain in there.
Yeah, with the hammer. Ugh, I hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your approach on this, David? How do you kind of approach this area?
What I did today was I had a fully maxed out ammo fuel rod cannon, because I dropped and got out of my Banshee and collected the ammo for it when you were fighting the various kind of grunts and stuff with it. So I brought it into the tunnel, and I just wrecked shop with the fuel rod. And I had the flamer grenades from the stealth guys. They're always handy, and they're great against chieftains. Now he'll still pop his invincibility, but the flame is just awesome. It burns right through them.
He didn't pop his invincibility for me at all. So this is something that is a little more prominent in Halo 3, because you can actually pick it up. But all of the chieftains have this invincibility thing, which is like just really bad armor lock, basically. Mm-hmm. Bad for us, because they can run around with it. So it lasts for, 30 seconds or something?
Yeah.
Enough for it to be really, really annoying, so...
Because they can run right on up at you with a gravity hammer.
Yep. Yeah,
they just so call down. And there is Hurgox here giving them shields and stuff like that, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was the shield and not his invincibility. Because he took a lot of damage before I could get him down.
Yeah, that was probably it. There's definitely a Hurgox back.
But it was fun. It's
challenging. It's good. I mean, I'm sure, I know you guys are playing on normal, and it's still challenging on that, but as you ramp up, all the way up to legendary, this is definitely a little sticking point right here.
And on Legendary, you have to salvage for those weapons in the bigger areas. Because there's a lot of different enemies in those big areas, and there's a lot of hidden weapons in those areas. So you really... Not the tunnels, but the big cityscapes. Mm-hmm. So you have to go around salvaging for some of the weapons like the fuel rod to really get through that, depending on your strategy for Legendary.
Really quickly, so I'm reading through my notes here. One thing I missed before we get to this area, when I was flying the Banshee around the kind of the big open area before we got in here, I flew it all the way up, and there was a dialogue point where you can actually fly up and you can see a bunch of Covenant, and there's a dialogue point that says the Covenant are gathering around the hole from the slip space rupture, which I thought it was just kind of interesting. And I think that has more to do with the portal as well.
Yeah, it's part of the...
But they do comment on that here. Just
I would
kind of
imagine the explosion...
I
would imagine the explosion from the slip space rupture did a lot of the digging for them.
Yeah, right.
In some regards, so that might be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they might just be using that pre-existing hole and just making it bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's probably how they found it. You know, it probably revealed a certain part of it, and then they started digging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would make sense. All right, sorry. I just wanted to touch on that little nugget. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but so let's get back.
Yeah, it happened to me as well, but I couldn't actually see anything because I wasn't up high enough.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I just went flying back down and continuing on with the mission. I think I'd heard it before.
So once you clear out, back into the tunnel, once you clear out this area, and you kind of have to clear it out, I think, because then you do trigger. There's a button in the other office, right, to open the door.
Mm-hmm.
So then that will kind of unjam the door, and then your buddies, Mickey and crew, can fly through. I had a fuel rod cannon and a gravity hammer. I was feeling really, really good about myself, and then I realized I couldn't use it anymore.
Yep.
I was like, "Come on, let's go. Let's do some combat." And then now we get to fight a scarab. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, right before that, when you come out through these doors, there's an anti-air wraith on the right of you, which is kind of cool.
Yes.
So that was kind of fun to fight.
Yeah, I noticed.
And then there's a whole bunch of banshees.
There's a couple of them, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the anti-air wraiths are really interesting. You really only see one in Halo 3 once, and you never get to fight in Halo 3 you don't really get to fight the anti-air wraiths from the air. So they're pretty cool.
You do. You have that mission with the Hornet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I remember that. But they're super cool. They literally just fire a million fuel rods. There are ways to glitch into them in Halo 3 and in Halo 3 ODST if you fancy yourself a hacker man.
Really?
Yeah, you can.
And you can fire them. Actually,
yeah.
You can actually use them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. So you could use that to kill the scarab potentially.
I think they're too far away
I don't
from
know
the
if you can.
You might be. You might be too far away.
I did find
for
the anti-air wraiths that a medium distance from them, they just won't fire at you anymore, and they'll just sit there. At least on normal. I'm not sure if that changes.
Yeah, they're not very difficult to manage.
They're just
cool. I mean, you have to move because they fire a ton of fuel rods at you, but other than that, you just don't stay in one spot and you'll be fine. The more good dialogue here. So once you kind of finally open the doors and you can kind of see the scarab from this distance, Buck will chime in and say, "Troopers, I got bad news." And then Romeo says, "What? You really gonna make us walk out of this city?" And then Buck says, "We got a scarab right by our exit." And Romeo says, "This is the best mission ever." So they're having fun, I guess, right? They're having fun kicking ass in this little stage of the game. And then Dutch does chime in and says to take out the legs, which is really the strategy here for the scarab. You kind of have to, don't you? I mean, I there was one point where I think I got one or two of the legs, and I was flying around to the back, and I think it kind of got stuck for me for a while. But then it was just kind of playing like a little do-si-do for me to fly around and realize, okay, I just have to take out these legs. But
you can take out the scarab traditionally. I do it sometimes. I jump out of the Banshee and board it and fight the enemies, and then you can go to the weak point and shoot it. You can totally take the scarab.
Right.
Oh, so you can do the Halo 3 version?
You can. Yeah, you totally can, and it's fun and it's tough, but it's fun. I love doing it. was like crashing my Banshee into it and hopping out and fighting the crew and stuff. It's hell of fun.
That's cool. Krista, what do you do usually?
So for this one, since I was playing on normal, I just one of the legs is right by a squid house. So if you blow up that squid house, it automatically damages the leg enough for it to go down. And just flew to the back and just killed it that way. I only needed one leg, but that's because I was playing on normal. Also, just another note on the Scarab. So this is a different variant from the Scarab we saw in Halo 2 Anniversary. Halo 2 Anniversary, it is a Type 47A. In Halo 3, Halo Wars, basically all of the other Halo games, it's a Type 47B. The main difference is Type 47B is made of the Lekgolo, which is what the Hunters are made of. And then the Type 47A in Halo 2 is literally just machinery. So
these ones, when you say they're made of them, it's kind of like the same way, or I guess give me your understanding. It's kind of like the Hunters, where it's just like this form of worms, and then just armor is just added to the top of it.
Yeah, you can see it a little better in Halo 3, but when you go up to the core where you shoot, like it has the little thing in the middle, and all around it is the red worms coming out of it. So you can really see that it actually is made of the Lekgolo. And we'll probably talk about that a lot more in Halo 3 once we get there. But it's a cool little thing. They are different, which is why you approach them a little differently.
But they are drilling. That's what they're for.
Yeah, they're not really for combat. They're for excavation, yeah.
But they use them for combat because they can.
Yeah, because they're the Covenant. Why not?
They are, yeah. All right, so we take that bad boy out, and I think that just triggers it, right? Or do you have? No, you actually do have to get out and then open the door, and then you have to fly through that next door, and then that triggers the end cutscene from there. You do have a fun moment as you're flying through that last tunnel to blow up. There's just a ton of the squid houses on the walls in that next area, and so you just hit one of them, and everything will blow up, and that pretty much triggers.
It's super cool. I love that.
Yeah, Chris, did you want to do the end cutscene?
Sure. So they're flying out of the city. Buck does a really cool maneuver where he jumps out of his Banshee and falls into the...
Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah, the gravity well in the Phantom. I'm just like, oh my god, you are way more braver than I am. But it's pretty interesting. And then they just kind of have some banter, just keep her stealthy. They complain like, oh, I'm glad we're not in those tunnels. They're either flooded or packed with buggers. And then Buck has a flashback. And in the flashback, it's the first cutscene from the game. It's Buck saying, come on, Veronica, what could be more important than that carrier? And then Dare just saying, my orders, and Buck, call me captain. And apparently, just through those two dialogues, he realizes where Dare is.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I picked up on, like, it missed it or what, but...
Yeah.
It's not a clear connection at all.
No, it's not. It's a very vague connection. It doesn't really make any sense. I wish there was a better dialogue option for... just a kind of a flashback to really connect it, but then he's like, okay, we have to go and set her down. He doesn't say where, and he's just, I lost something, now I know where to find her. And they turn the Phantom around and head back to the city. So I always found that particular dialogue a little strange, and just it seemed like they were forcing, like they needed something
very loose.
They needed something to get them back into the city, and it felt very forced in a way.
I mean, movies and TV and just stories in general will do this sort of, I don't know, mechanic is probably the wrong word, but at least
plot points.
Yeah, plot point, but they do a better job of drawing that connection. Whereas, like, if you maybe watch it once or twice and listen to the dialogue, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Whereas this
Romeo
really
says you couldn't pay me to go back down there, and that seems to spark like, oh, this is my own thing. Like, okay, pay him, as in like it's his job. Oh wait, it's Dare's job. Dare's job was to do this thing. Or maybe she's in the tunnel. Excellent, she's in the tunnel. Let's go to the tunnel.
Yeah, and like the reason for her being down there, like, it's never, like, they never really mention the superintendent much. Just these guys talking about it. So I mean, the connection just doesn't seem to really be there, and just their individual stories and their individual like interactions. It's The connection is very, very strange, but it happens.
Yep. Needed a reason to go back and save Dare, so. And the rookie, of course.
And the rookie, yeah. Well,
That's right.
at this point, they think the rookie's dead. They kind of
true.
wrote him off at this point. They're just like,
They've given up. We have to leave. They're just
But
trying to get out
he's
of the city
really
now.
into Dare. He's like, oh, I gotta get Dare. And they're like, you know what? The rookie's dead. Whatever. Who cares about the rookie?
Dare is his lady. It's his lady friend.
Mm-hmm. Plus, she's Oni. I mean, there's some layers going on here.
Layers. Like an onion.
Somebody once told me, we have to go into the tunnels and find Dare.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so we're done. We're done with that. We do kind of just go back to Rookie. He's looking at the biofoam canister. He hucks it on the ground, and then he hears Dare's voice. He hears her over the comms, and
But he says nothing. He
well,
says
he never
nothing.
does. Yeah, exactly.
I know.
They do make. I think we'll talk about in the next mission. There's some comment on that, but yeah. So that kind of sets up what we're supposed to do next, and we will talk about it on the next episode. Is there anything else on this walkthrough you guys want to touch on? Otherwise, we'll do some community stuff.
Yeah, I got some few little bits. Chronologically, this is the last flashback level of the game, and it's the last time the player plays as any other squad member other than the rookie. This is the only level where the Hurgok recharge stations appear, or squid houses. There's also the only level in the campaign where no firefight maps are based off, which is interesting. The Phantom and the Ghost that appear at the first closed Hurgok race station in the alleyway can be easily destroyed by destroying the station itself. That's actually fun to do. This is the last flashback mission and the only time the player gets to fly a Banshee in the campaign. It's also the second time the player plays as Buck. And there's your intro little bits of
There's
nuggets.
also a really fun Easter egg in this mission.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You guys didn't know about this. I'm surprised, but I think it's in the second city part that you go through once you've gone through the tunnels a couple times, and it's on one of those walls that kind of line this big square that you can kind of fly around. And if you go, you'll have to look it up, but you go over to it. There's a monitor, and you kind of drop down a couple levels. You get out of your Banshee. And you get to see a beautiful dance done by Marty, and those little hearts with wings kind of flying
Marty
out of
O'Donnell,
him in
she's
bubbles,
the
and I think it plays a little song, so
That's so good.
if you want to see Marty do a little dance, definitely play that. It's really funny.
Do you know if there's an achievement for that?
No, there's not.
See?
No, I don't think so, because I hadn't seen it in game. I don't like the picture of Marty O'Donnell like dancing like that. I've seen that, but
Okay.
not in the game.
So if there was an achievement, David would know about this Easter egg.
That's true.
I would have had it.
That is true. All right, let's do some community. Do either of you have up community stuff?
I have
Facebook or
Discord up.
Discord. All right, why don't you start?
You start, Krista, because I'm getting through Facebook.
All right, so Colin asked, which giant walking machine is more intimidating and why, the Scarab from Halo or the AT-AT from Star Wars? And we made a little poll on the Discord, and Scarab had 12 and AT-AT had 1.
All right.
So just some of the comments. Redacted17 said, the Scarab can shoot a giant laser that one-shots like everything, and all the AT has is 2 pew-pew lasers.
Yeah, that's good.
Shadow of replied and said, pretty much the same reason as Redacted. The Scarab is much more of a formidable foe, while the AT-AT is a giant camel with minor lasers. I want every
good.
laser to fire on that man.
Right.
Just Master Chief doing a dance. Matt says, the Scarab is alive. That automatically makes it 10 times more interesting.
Yeah.
And
Good.
that's
True.
about
Very
it.
true.
So there is our Discord.
I went back and forth on this question. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, we're all Halo people. I mean, maybe if you would ask some Star Wars people, they would say AT-AT. I mean, there were some votes for that, but I'm sure there are other giant vehicles. I think somebody else mentioned like well, actually, David, you'll get to that. Some of the other comments. Yeah. All right, you can do it.
I'm going to get it right now. So on Facebook, Colin Perkins created a poll. It says, which giant walking machine is more intimidating? Sounds familiar. The Scarab from Halo won, but plus 33
yeah.
votes, which is a lot. The AT-AT from Star Wars got 3 votes. Mechanical Spider from the Wild Wild West got
addition.
2. It's pretty funny. So Daniel Griffin added that. That was funny. Big Things from the War of the Worlds, added by Colin Perkins. These are way creepier. Like, those machines are super creepy in the War of the Worlds. Just in terms of, like, what's intimidating.
Well, when I created the poll, I added that answer late. When I created the poll, all I could think of was the AT-AT at the time. So I probably should have noodled on that a little bit more. There are other sci-fi walker things out there, but I don't know. I just wanted to do a little comparison between Star Wars and Halo, I guess.
Of course. Some more questions or comments. Jesse White says, this is super easy, man. Ian says, yeah, AT-ATs look like they're about to fall over at any moment. If Carter had flown his Pelican into an AT-AT, he'd still be alive today. Just saying. So that's pretty funny. Mike says, while it's easily the Scarab, let me be clear here. If I open the front door and see either of those monstrosities, I'm shitting my pants. Colin says, what about the things from War of the Worlds? And he added it. And I said, lol.
That's it? Oh, man.
I lol, like Colin.
No,
that's
good.
it, baby.
Yeah, great. I mean, fun mission. I wouldn't put this up on like the top 3 missions, but it's fun. You know, it's
I really enjoyed it. It's
a
cool
great mission. So
you always know it's going to
here.
be a pretty good mission when you get into Banshee and you're in the Banshee the entire mission.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
It's a well-designed mission. And it is like pretty corridory, but it's fun. Just kind of like jumping out of the Banshee at certain times, going on foot has been fun, and then jumping back in again and taking out a Scarab. I mean, it's got a lot. You do a lot in this mission in a short period of time.
Yeah, you cover a lot of distance for sure. All right, that will do it for our debriefing of Kikowani Station from Halo 3 ODST. On the next episode, we'll be covering Data Hive. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.
Evolved.